Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positivity here on the show, and with me right now I've got a very special guest. He is a two-time WWE Tag Team Champion, one half of the Godwinns. Pleased to welcome the one, the only, Henry Godwinn to the show. Welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
What's up, man? Glad you had me on. Glad we could hook up finally.
Yes. Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your childhood and upbringing. Where are you from?
My family's from West Virginia, but I was born and raised in Arlington, Virginia. And my junior year in high school, we moved back to West Virginia. So I played a year of football down here, went to the single A championship in Charleston that year, and had a scholarship to Virginia Tech and WVU and didn't take either one of them. So regret that sometimes, but hey, it turned out good. I played 6 years of baseball growing up. We won the Arlington County Championship when I was 15. I was a pitcher, so awesome time. 10 years of football, 3 years of wrestling. Moved down here to West Virginia, and a little single A country school. They didn't even know they had wrestling in high school. So
That's cool. Seems like you were an athlete, growing up, really into sports. It seems like it seems like it's a good escapism, when I've talked to a lot of people on the show, it's like it's like your thing, some people have music, some people have, dance or theater, but, so many guys that I've talked to and girls, they had sports, to cope with, being an escape from the everyday problems in life.
right. Yeah, it kept me out of trouble, kept me, just being with different cultures, in the sports too, really widens your horizon too. You learn different things from different people, blacks, whites. We had a couple of Mexican football players and Asian football players. So it was pretty cool, being in Virginia area, Arlington, and then coming down here, and it was a culture shock for me because I was going to a high school that had 2,600 students, and then we had less than 1,000 at this school. So, but yeah, I enjoy the country life. I cannot do the city no more. And when I was growing up, I always come down here and hunting and fishing and riding horses and motorcycles. So this was always in my blood, and this is where I'm supposed to be, right in the middle of Appalachia.
All right. Okay. Now, professional wrestling, was that another favorite pastime of yours growing up as well, or is that something you watched later or got into later on?
No, I was probably 5 and actually started watching it when we would come down here to visit. My pawpaw was a big wrestling fan. He'd be sitting in that recliner and he chewed tobacco, and watching him, he had a spittoon and he would tear that recliner apart. He'd have backer juice running down his chin, but that's how I started. That's who got me into it, and it just grew from there. And finally, in the late '80s, I met George Sal, an Italian stallion, and that's who trained me. So yeah, it was an awesome time.
Who are some of your favorites growing up to watch?
Oh my God. Well, my all time, and how ironic he gave me my first job, was Dusty Rhodes. Loved Dusty, loved JYD, the Polish Hammer. Yeah, it was man, what a crew back then, just some of them guys.
Yeah, back then it was during the territory era. So you had, Georgia, you had Memphis, you had
Yeah.
Florida, all the different territories across the country.
Texas, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And really, when you think back, to some of your favorite guys like Hogan or Flair, Andre, working the different towns, working the different cities, going down the road, you really see, how wrestling really evolved over time. Your favorite stars really got their start, cut their teeth before they made it to the big,
Yeah.
promotions. So I've always found
Right.
that really fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. Dusty was my all-time favorite. And, when I was going down being an extra at WCW, um, that's who I worked Eric Watts one night in Atlanta at Center Stage. And, Cowboy Bill Watts, his dad had just took over and him and Dusty were running it. And I had a hell of a little match. I'd just been in the business like 3 years when I got my job with WCW, but I had a hell of a match with Eric that night. And they came up to me that night and asked me if I could go out on the road and work Eric sometime. And I said, yeah, when? They said, well, can you go tonight? So I'm like 3.5 hours, 4 hours from home, and didn't take any clothes, just what I wore and my gear. So I know that night Italian Stallion and Arn Anderson were giving me clothes to take on the trip, and that's how I got started.
Definitely like a flight by the seat of your pants kind of deal, where you just, you have to get ready really quick.
Yeah, and I was scared shitless because here I am, like 3 years into the business, and I'm in the car with Harley Race is driving. Hercules Hernandez is in the passenger front seat. I'm behind Harley, and Barbarian's beside me, and I roomed with Barbarian that night. So I got introduced to it real quick. They took me out that night. We were drinking, and Barbie had to put me to bed, and it was a rough night. But I had to do it. Look at the company I was with.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people in the locker room you have to really impress. This is your first match.
Yeah,
You have to really give it your all. And a lot of people don't realize, professional wrestlers, have a really hectic schedule. They travel from city to city.
oh
You
yeah,
know, it's a grind. It really is. And
yeah,
when you're
it is.
training, the workouts and the drills that you do are really intense. Like they put you through the ringer, really.
Yeah, and then trying to get a workout in too every day is. But we were fortunate there. We went to the same gyms, a lot of golds and powerhouses, and just little gyms, uh, private owned gyms. We were always good to them, and were usually good to us. Tickets and T-shirts take you a long way.
Yeah. So you were in WCW for 2 years before you signed with WWE?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd worked there since '90, but we signed our contract in '92. Me and Phineas, and then we got let go when Flair come back. He brought all his buddies back, so he let me and Hunter and Phineas go. So, of course, in about 6 weeks, I had done signed with WWF. I'd flew up and met with Vince and JJ Dillon, and then Tex come up about a year later after that. And then, of course, Hunter started right after that because me and him had our little marriage together,
Yep,
and
yep.
Matt.
I think it's pretty cool, they say like the best gimmicks in wrestling are you turned all the way up, to 11. And so and then back then also like you had like your clowns, your trash men. This was like during the new generation period. So
Yeah,
they gave you this gimmick of a farmer. Um, what was that like?
I was just talking about this the other night with somebody. It was um, easy because I had done it my whole life. I'd been around it my whole life. Hogs and cattle and goats and chickens and sheep, the whole 9 yards, horses. But yeah, transitioning to it was easy because it was secondhand to me. At first, I didn't know how the overalls and the boots were going to go over as far as working. But man, after I got used to it, took me a couple weeks to get used to it. But after that, it was easy. I liked it, liked the overalls, and just felt more secure and safe. I don't know. I guess because I had so many clothes on, but yeah, it was a good thing. I liked it.
So did they had you not really, but they kind of had you put with Ted DiBiase at first, assisting him out with some
Yeah,
matches, and then eventually you got uh you got into a feud with Triple H. That had to have been some of the most fun to have a hog pin match of all things in wrestling. Pig slop everywhere. It's very innovative and different. Walk me
yeah.
through the process of finding out about that kind of a stipulation.
Well, they had mentioned it, and we were both all for it. Something like that never been done before. We're going to make history and have one. And I just Taker really touched on this when I did his podcast a couple months ago, um, about the hog pin match and how I'd scarred Hunter for life. But yeah, when they said we were going to do it, we were excited, and Vince sort of turned it over to me and Hunter. He said, "You guys come up with it." So we were a little nervous and scared, but I think I even told on the 6 Feet Under podcast that I think everybody thought it was going to be a haha match, but it wasn't. We beat the piss out of each other, and I was sore for a couple of days, and he got 15 stitches in his back, and but yeah, we come up with the whole thing, and when we were done, come back, and man, I had that stuff all over me, it was in my ear, and I threw everything away but my boots, and I think my overalls, and everything else I just trashed. And
Oh,
but yeah, Vince was standing there and pulled us in his office, and he goes, "Damn, boys, that was a hell of a match." And it was up for the Slammies that year. That match was, but yeah, that's one of my top matches. And then of course when we won the belts the first time in Madison Square Garden, that match, and then their Survivor Series, the BSK with Undertaker. So those are my three top matches, I guess. I got a
yeah.
lot, but those are the ones that stand out.
Now, when it comes to tag teams, you and Dennis Knight, Phineas, tell me the story of how you guys got put together. I mean, I know you'd met each other before WWE, but how did the Godwinns specifically get put together as a team?
Well, after I started working Eric on the road, they said they were talking. Barry Windham was telling me, because we were tight with Barry there in the beginning. He sort of took us under his wing when we started in WCW, and it was good. And me and Tex we've been partners since '92, so never had a crossword between us, and still pretty tight. And but yeah, the Godwinn thing. I was up there a year doing Henry Godwinn, and I had mentioned Tex a few times, and they were waiting on him to get ready to come up. I'll put it that way. So in about a year, he came up, and I told him, you got to wear overalls and be a country boy, and he did pretty damn good. He jumped right into that role, and he was even a little simple-minded at times. So, but it was our chemistry is good together, and we even in WCW before we got let go down there, we just knew what each other was going to do or what we were thinking, and we got to thank Arn and Ole for that a lot, and Barry Windham, because they helped us, down there, and we had some good matches down there with uh, Steamboat and Shane Douglas and JYD. We worked JYD and Bagwell for a while, and then Scorpio come in, and we did Beach Blast against Bagwell and Scorpio, which was a hell of a match. I love watching that match. I think it was '93 Beach Blast, but yeah, that's a good one to watch.
Yeah, you guys were really like one of the top teams in WWE for a long time too, and you guys wrestled the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors as well. What was it like working with them?
It was fun at times when everything was good and everybody was coherent. Uh, you know, when I broke my neck, I was sort of against doing the move because Hawk wasn't in his right mind that night at TV. And I didn't stooge him out, but I told the office I wasn't comfortable doing it. And sure enough, we did it and broke my neck that night. But it was fun. I love both of them, miss them, but they were hard to work with at times. And I'm not saying something that nobody else doesn't know. So that's just
Yeah,
part of it. But yeah, they were good guys, fun to be around.
injuries definitely play a big role in the wrestling world because you're constantly having to work your body and move your body in certain ways you're not used to. And taking a move like that really can hurt. Like when people say is wrestling fake? No, it hurts.
Yeah, yeah, that man, as soon as I hit, it didn't knock me out, but I seen a flash, and then I felt something in my mouth, and my teeth had got chipped from the impact, and it cracked my C7. And I mean, I walked to the back. As soon as I got back there, the rescue squad was there, and they made me take my overalls down and lay on a cold concrete floor to try to, because my body was starting to protect. I was tightening up, and yeah, I was in New York, Binghamton. They took me to the little hospital up there in Binghamton, which wasn't much of a hospital, but they did an MRI and I'd cracked my C7. Vince and Bruce Pritchard had come over to the hospital after TV that night, and I flew home the next day and was supposed to take 14 weeks off and just lay around and ice it. Shit, I was back wrestling in 7. Wrestled almost 2 months with a broken neck, and we had started Southern Justice, and we were wrestling. We just got done with shaving Finkel's head with Jeff Jarrett, Howard Finkel's head. And by the way, Howard said after that he loved it. He said I never grew my hair back out, so he always thanked me. I loved Howard. But
One of the
yeah, we
most
were doing the Southern
greatest.
Justice thing, and yeah, we were supposed to get the belts for a third time in September that year of '98. And at the last minute, they said, well, you should go home and get checked again. So I come home and had spinal fusion done. Me and Steve, all Stone Cold, had the same surgery, not too far apart. The fusion, C6, C7 fusion. Yeah, that's that little story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard, to come back from an injury and you tried very hard as much as you could and you were active
Yeah,
for many years I believe after that too. But
yeah,
you're wearing your shirt tonight, BSK. You were a part of that crew
yeah.
for, with Undertaker and Phineas, and so many other guys,
Godfather,
Godfather, Rikishi. Talk about
Yoko.
Yoko. Yep, yep. Talk about the first time you had met Undertaker.
Uh, well, I had met him at TV, but early in my career, even I think before me and Hunter, or right after me and Hunter's Hawk Pin match, me and Taker did a Monday Night Raw match, and once again, he he gave me a lot. We have a hell of a little match. I let him know I was there, and when I got back after the match, he was waiting for me back at the curtain. And he says, damn, that was awesome. He goes, we're going to have to work again together sometime. So I was on, cloud nine hearing that from him because I didn't know a lot of them guys. I mean, I knew Kevin Nash from WCW. We all lived in the same high rise. And, but yeah, I didn't know a lot of people, but me and Mark and me and Jeff Jarrett, we clicked and got along, and Paul Bear. And then when Phineas come up, and I had been riding with Yoko some. I drove him a lot. I had some good times with him, man. Used to go when we were in Cali. He would say, "Just come home with me." So I'd go home with him, and I think his sister and her husband and his kids lived there. Had a nice house in California, and I would go, and man, you talking about eating? We ate some good food. Rakishi would come over. We'd eat turkey tails and rice and just all kinds of good stuff. But yeah, what a honor it was to be around them boys. Yoko was a big kid.
Seems like it's the best part of the wrestling business is the camaraderie. You're traveling down
Yeah,
the road 365 and you're, with some of the greatest people in the world, enjoying, yourselves, having a good time. And what can be better than that?
yeah, yeah. And meeting the families. It felt like you had an extended family, and I loved his kids. They were good and just fun to be around. Just a good family, And Rakishi lived to Rafatu, and they lived out there, and it was a good time.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've done a lot of charity work or volunteered in your community over the years. What kinds of things can you talk about with me as far as charity work is concerned that you've done?
Oh man, uh, I I did a few things around here, some signings and give stuff away and auction stuff off, and I'm trying to get. I've been talking to people and trying to get wrestling started here at the high school here. They've never had it, and so yeah, they got some stuff planned. Would like to have a pig roast and raise money, and uh, maybe help the wrestling team out. So, and I'm supposed to go. My buddy, his wife is a principal at the middle school, and I'm supposed to go talk to some ninth graders. I think here in a couple weeks about uh, my life and my jobs. I worked in a hospital, so I was always working, intermingling with people. And they wanted to hear what it's like, to work around a lot of people, important people, and how you should act and how you should treat people and respect and, you know, just the basic stuff in life.
Well, let's talk about that. You had worked at a hospital for a while?
Yeah, I was a male nursing assistant in Princeton, West Virginia.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've seen about everything in a hospital. Helped do a couple of ops in the ER. I bid on a job and worked on the psych floor for almost 3 years. So I've always been around, taking care of people and looking after people. And I've worked in surgeries, and so I've did a little bit of everything in the hospital.
It's hard, when you see people that are going through, a rough time in their life and they're just they're not doing so well, they're sick,
Yeah,
they feel ill, and to be able to help make their day, I mean, that's got to feel good inside. It has to be heartwarming.
yeah. And sometimes I would it would affect me so much working on the psych floor that I would bring my work home, and worry about it and think about it. But you can't do that because I mean, you just can't do that in that business, really. I mean, you can have emotion, but it's really something you got to stay in touch with and keep control over. But I enjoyed it, and just seeing somebody get better that you didn't think would is satisfying.
Is there like a story that you would like to share about like helping a patient or talking to a patient that you can recall?
Uh Man, it was a long time ago, but some stick out. I know we had a guy, he was, schizophrenic, and he was a big guy. He was as big as me, if not a little bigger back then. Uh, and they were going to transfer him from Princeton up to St. Albans, which is a state hospital. And he had really grown attached to me on our unit in Princeton. So they had me ride with him like 3 hours to St. Albans because it was weird. It was like I was the only one he would settle down for. He would listen to me, and I don't know why. I mean, I was no professional. I was a mental health worker, aide is what we were called. But yeah, so that always stood out that the hospital trusted me to go along on an ambulance, ride 3 hours, and try to keep this guy, under control. But we made it, and he did good. And there's a couple moments there going up Interstate 77 towards Charleston that we thought we were going to have a little bit of trouble, but yeah, talked him down, and just being there with him.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do what you can, to help these people that are really going through just a hard, just really, they're going through so much.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it about giving back and helping others that just gives you the most joy and is just a fulfilling thing?
I guess the way I was raised in a big family, and we were tight, and I had lots of aunts and uncles and cousins, and I knew all my grandparents for the first 17 years of my life before I lost a grandparent. So I was fortunate
So
there.
sorry.
But man, I don't know, just I'm a people person, and I have a heart. Sometimes I wear it on my sleeve, but I respect people, and uh, I want that back. I feel like, and when I don't get it, it bothers me. When I'm good to somebody and I'm helping them and I respect them and what they think, then it's probably my fault, but I think I should get it back. And sometimes you don't, but it's like in the business with the boys. I never disrespected any of them, and I didn't want them to disrespect me. And it just I don't know. It just seemed like we didn't have too many people. We had a couple of people that were hard to work with and thought they were better. And but my crew and most of the guys, we everybody got along, and everybody like the BSK, like the clique had their guys, but there was never no animosity between us. We were all tight, but they helped their guys, and we had our guys. And when we're sitting around playing dominoes, that's how the Bone Street Crew come to life, playing dominoes. And just being together, and it was just a warm feeling. And to have Taker or Yoko say, hey, do this in your match, or here, try this. So we were always there for each other. And even outside of wrestling, you know we knew everybody's business, what was going on, because we're together more than we're with our families. And I was a single dad trying to raise two boys, and my mom and dad helped me. And I told Taker on the show, I said, if it wasn't for my mom and dad, I never would have made it in this business, because I was a single dad. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a good time, great time back then,
Yeah,
that era with the boy.
yeah. I mean, it's always good when you're around a group of people that make you laugh and make you smile because
Mm-hmm.
it's a tough world out there, and we all need people in our lives to help us get through the day. So for you,
Yeah.
that was the group.
Yeah, it was definitely kept me balanced and grounded and focused all at the same time. Of course, we partied hard, but we worked hard too. And I'm just glad that whole era, that infamous picture of all of us on the bus in Germany. You've probably seen it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most infamous pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like me and Briscoe and Tex and Paker and Kevin Nash and Razor and Sean and Stone Cold and X-Pac and Paul Bear, and Briscoe's laying on the floor smoking a cigar, and Hunter and George the Animal Steel took that picture with my camera. So,
Oh, wow, that's funny. That's so cool. It really is.
yeah.
Well, this has been just a pleasure to get to speak with you. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this. I want to say
Yeah,
thank
man.
you for coming on.
We'll have to do it again sometime next
Abs
year.
Absolutely. Where can people find more about you on social media? If you want to plug anything, feel free.
Just Henry Godwinn, all one word, on Instagram. Um, we got WrestleCade coming up in Winston-Salem
I'll be there.
next month, so I'm supposed to be going to that.
Yeah, I'll be there
But
too.
yeah, and then I think I'm off till WrestleCon and WrestleMania in Vegas, so I'll be going out there. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll be a great time for sure. I hope to run into you at WrestleCade. That'll
Yeah,
be
I'll see
great.
you. I'll see you at WrestleCade.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Phineas on here. We'll do a duty.
Yeah, would love to.
All
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Take care.
Keep in touch.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.